It's funny because, like, I mean, I feel like we were going against the grain as a duo when we started out.
Yeah.
And now that duos are becoming more popular, we're becoming a trio. It's like
interesting. You got to keep evolving.
Yeah,
They can't
keep things fresh. After the duo, the trio is going to come back, right?
Exactly. And then a 4-piece.
Yeah, and then a 20-piece. At one point, there'll be like just a full stage, like
the
a
new
little
Slipknot.
Yeah, a new Slipknot.
That's a little sneak peek of our special guests on today's episode of the Innersleeve Music Podcast, the Standstills. We caught up with the duo before they embark on their tour through North America with 3 Days Grace, some awesome conversation about their tour prep, brand new work, and of course, tips for some up-and-coming indie artists out there in the audience. So don't go anywhere. Hopping into some news in the world of music, we have yet another update about the apparent Pantera reunion that's set to start in the end here of 2022. Now, Zakk Wylde has just put in a new comment about this, Joe, and it seems to be doing more harm than good, perhaps, this statement from Zakk.
I just think it's misunderstood in the sense. I think people took it the wrong way in the sense that he still has yet to learn to play Pantera songs. And he explains, and it's true, he gives a really good example here about like if you turned around and asked like Dimebag, if he was still alive and say, hey, can you fill in and learn all these Aussie songs? He doesn't know everything. He's going to have to go and learn it and, make sure he understands all the parts. It's the same thing. I'm sure like Zakk can play a couple of the iconic riffs, from off the top of his head. But if you got to listen to these songs and make sure you nail every single part. So of course he still has to learn them.
It's definitely a challenge, right? And I mean, it seems like people almost assume a guy like Zakk Wylde is just like a database of songs and he knows every song. I mean, we can't assume the guy knows these songs just off by heart.
Yeah, that's it. You're going to have to learn like a good catalog of songs, like I'll probably still be able to play myself like Cowboys from Hell because I've heard that riff so many times, and stuff, or Walk or all those songs, so but you definitely, they have to learn all their parts and then the rehearsals and all that stuff can go on. But I just think people they just took it the wrong way and think like, oh my God, he's not serious. This is a scam or I don't know what, it's like a little overreaction in my opinion.
Now, as time has gone on with this story, how do you feel about the tribute/reunion in general? Do you feel like it's something that you would go see if they came to town?
I think so. I've never seen, strangely, now that I think about it, I never really got to see Zakk live myself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. I thought I did, but no, I ended up seeing when he left and Joe Holmes replaced him for Ozzy.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah. So I would definitely go. I think I would definitely, unless they're like $200 a ticket, forget it. But like a reasonably priced show, I would go and get to hear those songs again and like at that volume and hopefully played really well,
See, I'm sort of on the fence about this one because, in terms of Zakk, I've seen him live at least 4 or 5 times. So it's like, I think I've got my Zakk fill for sure. And in terms of Pantera, I almost feel like and again, I hope this isn't the case, but I feel like this could be one of those situations where it sounds like a better idea than it actually turns out to be. I would really hate to go see this and be disappointed. That's the one thing I would really hate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not going to be, you have to go in there knowing it's not going to be the two brothers. It's not going to be.
And it's not 1995 anymore either. So
exactly, so it's kind of like he says it here somewhere. I read very quickly, whereas like, if I'm friends with, it'd be like if Noel Redding and Mitch Mitchell, that played with Jimi Hendrix, called up Eric Clapton and said, would you like to play on a tribute show? I'm sure like he's pretty sure like that Eric Clapton would say, hell yeah,
Absolutely.
You're not replacing the band. You're not hopefully not putting out new music, and sort of like adding to the catalog. Cause I always find that turns me off a bit when bands sort of split up. I mean, like Pink Floyd did it and it worked. I liked it. But certain bands, they'll split up. Like, let's say example, when I was a kid growing up, there's Queensryche, right? To name an 80s band. But then there's Jeff Tate's Queensryche, and then there's the other Queensryche. Now there's 2 Queensryches. Not that I follow any of them.
And it's like LA Guns too, right?
Yeah, it's those kind of like, man, just like, I don't know. I hope they don't do that. I love the way Pantera sort of finished. It's perfect. Do not mess around with it, you know?
I couldn't agree more, you know, and I think that the silver lining for this is at least the fact that they're phrasing it as a tribute. They're not saying it's a reunion, because again, how could it be a reunion if two of the guys aren't even here, you know?
And, you know, not for anything. They're all important, but I mean, those are the two brothers. I remember, I remember like when I heard Dimebag for the first time, it was like hearing Van Halen for the first time, because it was like something different about this guy, man. Like the riffs, the energy behind the stuff, you know? And same thing with the drums at the time. For me, those drums, I never really heard that kind of kick attack on the drums and stuff. So it's very like fresh for the time, you know? So anyway, you know, I mean, and you know, like same thing for Phil Anselmo. He's great, you know, like in that role is perfect. Like, you know, I love it. So yeah, no, I definitely go watch it. You know, reasonably priced, I'd go watch it. And I hope like you, I hope I wouldn't be disappointed.
Let us know in the comments what you think. Would you be going to see the Pantera tribute, or is this too little too late? Make sure to let us know down below. Hopping over to some sad news in the world of music today. Mikaben, the Haitian singer who has made a massive mark over in his home area of Haiti, has unfortunately passed away at the age of 41. Now, Mika actually passed away on stage. Am I getting this right, Joe, in Paris?
Yeah, this is like very weird to see, but like, yeah, he was just celebrating. He was playing with, no, I forget the name of the band, but he was playing with Karimi or something, because he's been featured. Yeah, that's it, Karimi. It's right here, and he's been featured on a couple of their tracks. He was performing with them. Honestly, like I hadn't heard about Mikaben at all. You know, I mean, it's a world artist, so it's like we can't know everybody. But I mean, I'd never heard of it until this happened. And then it's so sad. Like when you see what happens, he's like just singing, and then he walks off the stage, and then just about as he's out of view, and you just see him fall.
Yo, what's good, my people? I'm out here in Accor Arena, Paris. Yep. Today's the big day. It's gonna be crazy.
There was also the video of him with Wyclef Jean.
Yo, listen. Yo. One of the most talented young men, period, that I know in my life. Him right here, real deal.
Appreciate you. You killed it, man.
Hey, man, that's respect right there. Wow.
Yeah, man. Big words from coming. And another like really sad part in this whole thing is that he was expecting him and his I don't know if it's his girlfriend or his wife, but he was expecting, and like, wow, you know, so
horrible. He wrote his first song at the age of 15, it says as well. So I mean, he's been at it for a long time. You know,
it's just so sad. Like I swear, it's so weird. I've never met the person, never even heard of this guy. I don't know his music or anything. And then I was just so moved when I saw that video, and like and the story of, you know, never gonna get to meet his child kind of thing, you know. So it's like, I don't know, that hit me hard. And you know, we wish you know, condolences and everything to the family and everyone who's, you know, been touched by Mikaben, you know.
Our condolences from the SoundMojo family and the whole family here at Watch Mojo for sure. Make sure to let us know in the comments. Were you ever familiar with Mika's music? Are you familiar with the Haitian music scene? Make sure to let us know what this passing means to you guys down below. Now, today on our Versus segment, we have a challenging matchup. I think this is not going to be easy for any of our rock and metal fans out there. Today, we asked, which album is your favorite? Shout at the Devil or Dr. Feelgood by Motley Crue? Now, 59% of our voters voted for Shout at the Devil out of 100%. So obviously taking the cake.
Shout at the Devil.
Absolutely. Which one would you say for this one, Joe? Because for me, I think Shout at the Devil has to take it.
Yeah, I was biased and I voted Shout at the Devil because simple reason, first album I ever bought, and I still love it to this day. And nothing wrong with Dr. Feelgood, but that was just my...
It almost feels to me like Shout at the Devil is the more authentic Motley Crue. I mean, listen, this is before they sobered up. They were down and dirty. Dr. Feelgood feels a lot more polished, and it's obviously still a legendary album, but it doesn't have that grittiness, I don't think. It's you know, Bob Rock doesn't really do gritty, but still two great albums and hard to really match them up. Let us know in the comments which album is your favorite. Now it's the part of the show where we hop into you guys' listener suggestions. Of course, every Friday on the SoundMojo Comms tab, we put up a post asking you guys to send in music for us to listen to, and we react right here on the air. Always a lot of different genres in this, Joe, too, which I like. It's not like it's always just rock or just punk. It always seems to be very eclectic from our listeners.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So AUR, he left a comment, I think, on the last Innersleeve, and he mentioned like, okay, no dubstep because we tripped on the dubstep stuff, but see what I mean? Future rhythm. What does that mean? Doesn't mean anything to me.
Exactly. That's a new genre for me.
Well, that's it. Future bass, future this, bass music. Like I read some comments saying, oh, this is like, you'll see it. Like one of the suggestions we have, I think it's in this one. Yes, it is. Emme, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. Phonon by Emme. And
yes.
Anyways, he goes on to tell us a whole bunch of stuff of why he liked the song and who Emme is, an 18-year-old guy with polyrhythms and stuff. Anyway, when I clicked on the video to watch, when I found the video, it was like I was checking out the comments, and some of the comments were interesting because like some of them said, "Oh, this gives me hope for the future of bass music."
Right.
What does that mean, bass music? To
bass
me, bass
music
means there's a guy who plays bass and that's it. Like
yeah.
And there's no other instrumentation. That means a bass music, but I don't know what it means in terms of like electronica, that kind of stuff. So I'm
thinking maybe just like a lower end EDM, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it'd be cool to have someone who can actually like break down these differentiations between the genres.
Yeah,
because that's a bit over my head.
Yeah, it is. And I feel weird because like, what's future house? I don't know.
Yeah, compared to present house or past house, I don't fucking know. I have no clue.
Anyway, so this track, Phonon by Emme. I don't know.
What a weird song, man.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead, man. That's perfect.
Listen, I gotta say, for me, there was moments I liked to this. But the second they got me with the rhythm, they changed it up. Like there was so much going on in this song, Joe. I almost felt like I couldn't wrap my mind around what was what.
Well, that's kind of like, I think, what they wanted.
The point.
Yeah, because like, I saw some reaction videos of people reacting to this. Like, what's the BPM? What's the, not the BPM. What's the time signature on this? Because there isn't just a straight 4/4 time signature that we're used to, right? 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's totally out there.
Very jazzy, and stuff like that. So anyways, as soon as I pressed play, I got, within the first 30 seconds, I got right away. I don't know if you're familiar with Flying Lotus, the artist.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that's what it reminds me of, like in the sense of experimentation with jazz and electronica, but he really takes it to another level that, Flying Lotus can do. And like some of the comments were saying this is jazz step. Like maybe
jazz step. Interesting.
Jazz step.
I did see those comments too. They were like, "This is big for jazz step." So I mean, like, now would you say that this is would something like jazz step be a big genre? Like, would you say there's a lot of artists? No, okay.
I don't think so. Like, it's not big in the sense of like maybe popularity, but it could be big in the sense of like a lot of people underground people are doing it, and 2-3 years from now, it could be like what synthwave and all that stuff that came out. But I mean, I enjoyed it, especially the middle part, where it slows down a bit more and becomes a bit more, I don't know.
That's the thing. They had me there, and then it would I felt like there was all these other instruments that we didn't need. But again, like it's different genres for different folks. And I think it's cool that we get to hear, what other people are listening to. I don't want to be caught in an echo chamber here.
Exactly. That's it. And so for myself, like, I'm like, I got to dig in deeper to see, because like, it seems like an interesting artist for sure. I like people that push boundaries, obviously, in genres like this. So it's like, and since this seems to be a little nascent, like young, we're probably at the cusp of the early, or we're probably already late. Usually we're late.
Well, yeah. I mean, I might be late, but I mean, hopefully the artists are not. The next one here, we had Earth, Wind and Fire. This was a classic from EWF. I'll call them, On Your Face. Yeah.
And suggested to us by Renée Catanias. Obviously, I mean, I don't know if you can be in, like my 10-year-old knows September by Earth, Wind and Fire.
Of course, everybody does.
Yeah. So, but they've been around, like obviously they're a classic and stuff, but I'm not familiar with the song. Like I in this original state, I wasn't familiar with it, but I kept having this nagging sensation because some of those cues, the punches and some of the orchestral stabs and, those breaks that they do, I'm like, I've heard this probably in a sampled form in another song. That was used, like Daft Punk uses sample a lot of stuff like that. So it had that kind of familiarity with me, but like I wasn't familiar with the song itself. but totally liked it. Yeah.
Same here. This actually made me think of how little I'm familiar with Earth, Wind, and Fire, because I think they're one of those bands that they get very much defined by a couple of hits, and people almost don't even care for the rest. And I mean, I'm interested to maybe dig more into them, Joe, because like you're saying, they've been using so many different samples through the years. It's like I'm sure there'd be tons of stuff that actually sounds familiar. So yeah, I like this song though. I gave this a high rating for sure.
So we're moving on to HWC Transgender Ministries, who suggested Cascade, One Heart, the song.
Yes.
Were you familiar with Cascade? Yeah.
Definitely by name. And I think there's a couple songs that I randomly added one or two songs on my playlist, but like always, whenever I hear Cascade, I just think of like putting your arms up, laying back, just like, just relaxing. You know, that's really how I feel the second I hear this artist.
Yeah, I'm familiar obviously with Cascade over the years. Like these guys put out so much stuff and so much good stuff. I don't know everything, that's for sure, because like I didn't recognize this song, but I definitely recognize the style. There's something like there's other songs of Cascade, like sometimes like that I really like. I can't think of the title now, but like there's one where it's a collab with him and Deadmau5, which I also like a lot.
Okay, that might be the one that I heard.
yeah, it's on the radio and stuff. So like, yeah, I'm sure you've heard it. But I mean, like there's something like you said, you know, when you think Cascade, you think relax, whatever. I think similar thing, like ambient. It's very sparse, very spacey music. And I call it, I just love this kind of like dreamy EDM popish, you know, like it's still in a pop song format.
Exactly.
EDM, you know, and it's very light, not too, you know, so yeah.
It's like the opposite of bass trap or, you know, it's like in the same family, but like the calmer version.
Yeah, exactly. So no, that was a good suggestion. Thank you very much. Next.
And the song I remember, right, was the Deadmau5 song?
Yes, that's it. That's exactly it. I love that track. It's so good. And then who do we have next? We have, Here with always the most eclectic suggestions.
Oh my gosh, Here, you're a legend.
Orchestra Obsolete playing Blue Monday of all things.
Now, if you guys...
Yeah, go ahead.
If you guys have never heard of this,
I didn't.
I'd never heard of this. And these are guys who were playing 1930s instruments, guys. So like there were instruments in this, Joe, that I didn't even know some of these were real.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like what? Like the guy playing the saw?
Yeah. And the guy playing the cups. And I was like, I know that exists, but I was like, I couldn't believe that was actually the sound coming from it. Or the guy with the string, you know, he had like a string he was playing.
Yeah. No, that's what I loved about it. I loved seeing how it was just like a 2x4 of wood with like, I don't know if it's like almost like a guitar sound with a slide kind of thing. You know? I love that kind of stuff. It's so creative, so cool, you know, and the theremin would like give you that spooky kind of vibe.
The look kind of reminded me of Eyes Wide Shut with like the creepy ass masks and like they're in some weird location. I was like, what is this? But they seem very sure of themselves. And that was the one thing that they knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah, and like I don't know if it's true, but like, you know, scrolling through the comments, like somebody wrote something like it's too bad this is the only thing they've done or something. So I don't know if there's more of this kind of stuff, but I mean, it was definitely unique, definitely the most unique suggestion of the week for sure.
Absolutely. It's hard to beat that when it comes to the wow and uniqueness factor. This next one though definitely raised my eyebrows a little bit in the sense that this group is not a group that I associate with the year 2022. And the next track was, of course, Weezer with Records. Yeah.
Suggested by GameX Simmons. And I am familiar with the song because for some reason I've been out of the house a couple of times this year and I've heard it on the radio. You know what I mean?
You have a leg up on me.
Yeah. So I've heard it on the radio. And honestly, like I'm not like the craziest Weezer fan, but I've always liked everything I've heard. Like since the 90s. You know, like Buddy Holly, right? And I always find they write like these super catchy, radio-friendly songs, but they're always quirky and funny. There's something funny about them, a joke.
Always.
Tongue-in-cheek, you know? And
even their videos, right?
Yeah, exactly, you know? And the thing about this band, like, don't quote me on this, but like I know that the singer, I think is it River Phoenix, the guy, I think. Anyways, he's also a writer for a lot of I think he writes for a lot of other people as well. I might be getting stories mixed up because I remember
Rivers Cuomo.
That's it. Why was it Rivers Phoenix, the guy who died? Yes, it's true.
Right.
Joaquin's brother, I think, or something. Anyway,
right.
So like I've always been a fan of Weezer. I've always enjoyed their stuff, and I thought the song was really cool. You know, I thought it was bang on. You know.
I liked it actually. You know what? Like Weezer, again, they're not really like, I think they're just sort of out of my element. I mean, I was never even really around when they were popular. But yeah, like I like what I was hearing, and you know, nothing groundbreaking, but definitely I'm glad to see Weezer still active and still doing their thing. And I'm sure their fans are really happy about that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. No, a great band for sure. Who do we have next? We have well, I skipped one here. We'll come back to Donald Fagen. Aviation's Outliers, suggested by Colin Olevson, which thank you. This is a kick-ass freaking suggestion. Right.
This was so unique, man. Like I found first of all, I wasn't expecting them to go as heavy as they went with it. Once they started the track, it was sort of more on a relaxed vibe. It looked like this video might have been shot during quarantine too, because like they had all their own angles in their own rooms, but they were all playing together. Honestly, I was taken aback by the whole thing. These guys sort of look more like your regular everyday guys, but they're playing otherworldly. And 11 minutes, this song.
Yeah. Have you like heard this kind of genre before?
It sounded like, yeah, I think I've definitely heard the genre. I can't think of who to attribute it to though.
I don't know. Like when I think of this kind of stuff, I think of like bands like that are breaking really big now. Polyphia. Well, there's Animals as Leaders, which is very technical kind of stuff. There's you know, that kind of genre where. But what I like about these guys is because I'd never heard of Aviations, never heard of the song, never seen this video before, and you know, right away the intro is awesome. Me too. I didn't think it was going to get heavy. I thought it was going to. I was expecting almost at one point something orchestral or like cinematic. You know, which
the piano was center stage too in the beginning as well.
That's it. So one thing I love is like, you know, and then you start, you know, they had these beautiful lush harmonies, vocals, and you know I'm a huge fan of that. But what I love about it is that, okay, it ended up being these guys can play. They can shred.
Exactly.
They have chops. But it wasn't wall to wall. Let me show you everything I can play and every technique and every bar.
It gets boring after that point, man, because like technical skill I think is only so entertaining without that soul. Like I could listen to a guy who's way less technical and maybe enjoy it more if he just has that feel.
That's exactly it. And like, you know, I'm used to listening to these long epic type of songs, you know, growing up with Dream Theater and like these bands who like to do these things, you know, and even the prog stuff from the 70s. So I didn't mind the 11. I found it was really like the whole 11 minutes was like, I didn't want to skip, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying like the whole thing was well done. Like you said, the video was great. This is like my favorite of the week suggestion for sure.
Awesome. Super solid suggestion. Shout out to Colin for sending that one in to us. The next one is going to be Volbeat.
Yeah.
Or Evgit.
Yeah.
I don't know how to exactly pronounce that.
From the song is like Evit or something like that for Evit. You know, anyway.
Volbeat. So Volbeat, they're from where? They're from,
I think it's Danish.
Denmark. Yes. Okay. Perfect.
Okay, cool. So at least I know something about them because
there you go.
I've seen this name forever. For like a long time. Like I have friends that are huge into it. We never talk about it, which is weird. Yeah. Or I find out they like this band when I see them posting from the show. I'm like, oh, you like this band? I didn't even know. So anyways, again, long story short, you know, I never went. I listened to a Warner song or like I was expecting something completely different. Like this is more. Like,
were you expecting heavy or less heavy?
Yeah, something heavier. I don't know what it was. Just something heavier. Figuring Denmark, you know, and these are more like just good songs, right? Catchy songs with, you know, with like hard rock metal vibe around it, you know, and kind of like Ghost, right?
Very much like Ghost.
Yeah, you know, and like, but I never understood. Like, I'm like, it's heavy and stuff, but it sounds like stuff like when I grew up, just like better packaged, better produced with today's kind of standards. So it's like, it surprises me that it really took off and did this well, you know?
Honestly, I totally sort of echo that. Like at the end of the day, I think they're a good band. I think they have good song structure and everything about it's good. I just don't really get the hype. Like, you know, they're fine band. It's just maybe a little on the poppy side for me. You know, I know that these poppy kind of bands like Ghost, you know, they do really, really well. And there's obviously a huge market for them. I just think maybe I'm not in it, to be honest with you. I think the song was nice, but it wouldn't be something I'd be running back to play, honestly.
Yeah. Thank you, Anton, for I won't attempt to say your middle.
Anton works.
Yeah. But this is, you know, it's a great suggestion. I liked it, you know, and like I should dig deeper, but like, you know, nothing wrong with it. Just like you know, okay, cool. You know, like, I mean, if I would get free tickets, I'd go and I'd enjoy the show.
Or hear it in a movie or something. I could hear that and it make more sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, like for me sitting at home, probably not.
Yeah, and we skipped over Sean Gagnon wins.
Yes. Speaking of Ghost.
Ghost. And I mean, these are like, it's funny because like I went recently just to see Ghost, a month ago, and I really enjoyed the show. And I thought it's the best sounding show I've ever heard in terms of production. Like I heard every note from every single instrument all the time. Nothing was buried. Great stuff. But these two songs, Rats and Square Hammer, I actually know very well. Square Hammer, okay? Like, I remember being in my car in the summer and all of a sudden, because like the local station here doesn't play this kind of stuff normally.
Right.
You know? And all of a sudden I hear the song like, wow, this is really cool. This sounds like stuff when I grew up with, like harder rock, a little bit heavier, but with great vocals and stuff. So I'm like, ooh, so I cranked it. I'm like, this is really good. Waited till the guy came on and he said, this is Ghost, blah, blah, blah. So I did the research and I see the cover, you know, with like the priest, very dark looking. I'm thinking, wait a minute.
It looks way heavier than it is.
Yeah, and I'm like, what the hell, man? You know, like this dichotomy between the imagery and the music. But anyway, all this to say that I'm really surprised to be honest, like I'm really surprised that Ghost did as well as they did or are doing as well as they're doing. That they don't deserve it. I'm just, like we said about Volbeat, I thought this was sort of a bygone era where these type of songs don't get that kind of exposure, but obviously they do. There's like 80 million views on these videos, you know? So
that's the crazy thing to think about as well, is that like groups like this are basically doing it off their own fan base. Like it's not like they have much radio play at all, you know, like they're just strictly doing it off their fan base, which I think is insane.
Well, I remember when we had Tobias on the show, or we were about to get him, I think the day before we did the interview, I was on a chat with somebody else from Watch Mojo and who lives in Europe. And I said, hey, we're going to get Ghost. We're going to have Tobias Forge from Ghost on the show tomorrow. And he wrote back, who's Tobias Ghost? Who's Ghost? You know?
There you go.
Really? You're in Italy and you don't know, like you're in Europe where they're supposed to be pretty big.
Exactly.
So it's surprising, you know, and it's interesting to know that like there's still still a market out there for this kind of stuff done well.
Right.
There's an audience for it, you know?
That is a fact. So shout out to our friend from Long Island. That was Sean Gagnon. Yeah. Oh yeah, Rhode Island, of course. Woonsocket, Rhode Island.
Yeah. So now we'll go back to the last one we have here, which was by Not Donald Fagen, Eric Clapton and Friends, The Breeze, an appreciation or a tribute to J.J. Cale, featuring like some heavy hitters: Mark Knopfler, John Mayer, Willie Nelson, Tom Petty, Don White, Clapton, obviously.
Definitely, listen, obviously legendary, but for me, this isn't the sound I'm looking for. I got to be honest. This is way too old school for me. The production, it just sounded old, to be honest. I need something that doesn't sound dated. Like Led Zeppelin, I put on Led Zeppelin 2. That I can get down with. It doesn't sound like it was recorded in 75 or whatever, but this...
Well, this obviously wasn't recorded in 75 because we have John Mayer and some newer people, but I know what you mean. But I liked it because it felt warm to me.
Yeah, I could see that.
Like when I hear Mark Knopfler's voice, it sounds like he's right up here, what he's singing,
right.
You know, like very nice and warm. And like, it was a great album to listen to and enjoy, like, you know, Mark Knopfler's playing, his singing, Tom Petty and all those guys, and John Mayer as well. So I enjoyed it, but I grew up in this kind of thing. But like, this is funny that you said that because I remember being a guitar player when I was young in the 90s, and like I was into all the, you know, the shredders and the good players like Gilmore and then the Steve Vai and all that stuff. And, you know, there was always blues, and there was blues. And then like, you know, B.B. King, okay, legendary, all good. Stevie Ray Vaughan, I bow to Stevie Ray Vaughan and all that stuff. But it's like, every time you watch it, it's the same 12-bar blues, right? Yeah. It's just the dum, and they're doing the same kind of licks. Eventually, you'll get a unique, because, you know, the guys are unique and you can spot them because that's Clapton, that's John Mayer.
After a while, yeah. Once you tune your ear.
I was always thinking, okay, but what's new? You know, what's new? Yeah. You know, like back then, you know, I can appreciate it because I understand and I like the music, but I don't know, like if I'd be able to do a 2-hour, let's say like jazz, blues concert. Not 100% sure. Like
the same song for 2 hours. It almost feels like sometimes.
That's what it is, you know, because you know, it's like, it's the standards, right? Like same thing with jazz. They'll play the standards that everybody knows of jazz. I prefer those, but I also prefer like the more avant-garde guys. Like you'll see in Innersleeve in a few weeks, Thompson Egbo, which is like the new version of jazz. And I love that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Make sure to leave a comment on the next Comms Tab post coming up on Friday, letting us know which songs we should react to on the air. And until then, until we meet there, we actually have some suggestions for you guys to react to. We figured we'd flip the script once again.
Yeah, exactly. Because we're always like, let's see what we're into as well, you know? So I'll let you go. Lead the way, my friend.
Okay. So my suggestion that I wanted people to hear this time, just since we talk a lot about genre bending and different things like that, is a song called I Am Not a Human Being by Lil Wayne. And this album actually, Joe, is the album where Lil Wayne decided to do rock fusion. He actually has lots of guitar playing. He has 80s rock samples that he's rapping over. And this song, he has full-on guitar shredding. He calls himself the hip-hop Oasis on this song. And it's a very interesting collab. So for anybody out there who's interested in genre bending and you missed this album, it came out in 2010. And I think it was very much underrated, you know, and under discussed. So that's my suggestion for this week.
So for my suggestion, this is something I actually didn't hear about until, let's say, a week ago from today, which is the ghost of a saber-toothed tiger. Now, this just showed up because I was listening to something Spotify Discover, and then it ended up playing something by Les Claypool, which is from Primus, right? And it said Les Claypool and something Claypool Lennon Delirium, it's called. It was pretty cool. So I said, who's this Lennon dude? And I click on it, and it's like, of course, it ends up being
the Lennon.
Yeah, Sean Lennon, you know, Yoko and John's son with with a partner, and like it's Charlotte Kemp, sorry. And you know, it's very like, I don't know, I listened to it, I enjoyed it. It's very like 1970s fusion experimental, but you know, it's got a different vibe to it, and it's like legit. Just press play, listen to it. If you're into that kind of stuff, you'll definitely like it. So that was my suggestion for the week.
So now we're going to hop into our conversation with Jonny and Renée of the Standstills. Again, they're about to embark on their North American tour with 3 Days Grace. So definitely an exciting time. Make sure to go catch them on the road if they stop into your city. We have all the links you need to catch up with them on tour and on their socials in the description down below. Back on Innersleeve with two more phenomenal guests. It's a pleasure to be joined by Jonny and Renée of the Standstills. What's happening, guys?
How's it going?
Hey, it's going great. Listen, we really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. So, of course, the brand new single, Pretty Little Broken Thing, is out. Maybe talk to us about the single and what's been going on in that regard.
The single is the first release of our new album. Called Shockwave. So the single is a song that kind of resembles a part of our past. It's kind of like this punk rock sort of love story thing that we kind of wrote about, and because the album itself is it's kind of like it tells the story of us. When we started out as a band and as a couple and kind of going through rising up the ranks in the rock and roll world. And so Pretty Little Broken Thing, it's a song that kind of, you know, we at times like for Renée, when she was growing up, she used to go to this place called The Office. It was kind of like this punk rock like venue where you'd go see hardcore bands and like everything that was just really edgy. And but it was the place to go. And for me, it was the dungeon in Oshawa.
The dungeon.
So, yeah. So it
sounds like interesting.
Yeah. But so that's a song that it tells that story, and it's like it's sort of, you know, it paints that picture of us when we were even together, like in London, going to call The Office and stuff, and so it's one of the heavier songs on the album, but it's just got a lot of groove. Like it reflects our passion for stoner rock, and like how you can mix something like heavy guitars with like a really catchy groove, and just have, you know, try to blend that in with a really well crafted song. And, you know, that was what we were trying to do with that song. So I think it, you know, that's why we call it like Pretty Little Broken Thing. Because some of these venues were pretty broken. Like, half the stuff was working, half the stuff wasn't, you know. But
that's why we use the imagery of the disco ball too, because that was just the thing that existed in every club, every venue. And usually it was missing pieces of the mirror on it and stuff. So.
Yeah,
no doubt. And I mean, we see, you know, like the visuals, obviously in the video too, it sort of reflects sort of what looks like a smaller venue, right? I mean, what can you tell us about the sort of casting characters in the video? Was there any specific inspiration from that?
Yeah, I think that like what we wanted to do, so the video is a peep show. So we wanted it to be like, you know, that's what we felt like over the past couple of years with these online concerts. It just felt like a peep show or something, you know.
Right.
It wasn't like, you know, we weren't at a real show or anything. So we wanted to really, I guess, shed a light on that. And that's how we've felt over the last couple of years. So with the cast of characters is that I feel like, you know, when you're doing these live shows and stuff, or the peep show, like it's, there's usually a specific type of crowd, but we wanted it to be a mix of just the craziest stuff, or like, you know, so each character is very different from the next. You know, we have the guy with the glasses, and he's kind of like the reserve office, like geeky guy, I guess. And then, you know, like with the older lady who's like kind of this, like she's dressed like an old stripper by the end and stuff. And then the guy who's the big muscle guy. So we just wanted like this, like, just something interesting. Each character having their own interesting story that to bring to the table, as opposed to just having, you know, we could have brought in a cast of like, you know, just people that looked regular or whatever. But I feel like these peep show things, I think you would get some pretty interesting people that would actually go to a peep show. Like, anybody that really goes to a peep show.
Once you're actually there, it would probably be a whole cast that's maybe even wilder than the video, right?
Yeah, exactly. What we were attempting for, but I thought we got pretty close.
No, totally. I mean, the video was so cool, and it really was. It sort of kept you on the edge of your seat. I found, like, wondering what was going to happen next.
Thank you. Yeah, we wanted it to be pretty raunchy too. You know? I think that, like, because that, like, the song itself and the venues we were going to, and, you know, even a lot of the music that was being played in those venues and stuff, we wanted it to be like that. So we actually filmed it at the Bovine Sex Club in Toronto. So everything was very genuine to the message in the song and the vibe of the song, and stuff like that. So we wanted to
some method performance here.
Yeah, exactly.
It works out.
Exactly.
I want to know, like, how long you guys have been, the Standstills have been a thing. Have you always been a duo?
We were until recently. So we've been a band for about 14 years now, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
We formed in college, so that was a while ago. But it wasn't until this year that we actually brought in a bass player. So
yeah,
it's been a different mix, but it's working out really well, and it's really filling out the sound of our new album too. So it's really exciting on stage to have that third person in the dynamics. So.
Was it always like on purpose, like as a duo, or just because you couldn't find the right mix or fit?
It began with us trying out a few people, and yeah, like you said, the mix just wasn't right. So we just kind of went as a two-piece organically, because that's just kind of what was working for us. And we were a couple at the time too. Well, we still are at the time. So the dynamic between us was always really strong, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think too, when we first got together, like we were listening to bands like John Spencer Blues Explosion and stuff like there's two guitar players, they don't have a bass, you know.
Right.
We were listening to bands that didn't have bass players, that were more underground stuff, or and so we just were doing what we love to do. And I think that, like, to progress as players and songwriters, it's important to have a certain connection when you're working together. So the workflow goes faster and you can achieve things quicker. And for us, that just seemed what was the best way for us to progress as artists and try to get to our goals quicker. And so we were able to do a lot. Like we were able to, you know, as a duo, we got like our record deal, and we were able to, you know, since being a duo, like before we added our bass player on this new album, you know, we toured Europe, UK, throughout the US, Canada. We were in Zimbabwe.
Insane.
Like going through villages. We did a Canadian-wide tour, and we sponsored a village. So we were down in Zimbabwe, and we were doing all this stuff because of the we were progressing so quickly because our work dynamic together was we had the same vision and the same goal. So we were just really focused in on that. And
yeah, it's a lot easier to make decisions when there's two people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And you have the same vision, right? So it's like that's how we kept it. And at the same point, there's a lot of new technology when it comes to the low end, filling at the low end and stuff. So for me, like I play baritones. So like sits right in between the guitar and the bass.
Right.
So it's sound like I'm filling out that low end, and I was using a guitar rig and a bass rig and octave pedals and stuff like, so it was just like a bunch of stuff that filling that stuff out. But then when we got into the studio and worked on this new album, we had the opportunity to bring in a bass player that wasn't just hitting the root notes, which is what an octave pedal does. So it just sits on the lower level of the notes I'm playing on the guitar. But we had a bass player who was creating a new melody underneath the guitar and hitting different things, different notes, and creating a different story underneath what we were doing. And that to us was extremely special. So
yeah, because he has got a lot more room to move around as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And do you detune since to take advantage of like the low end even further?
Yeah, down to like an A.
Oh yeah.
Low B.
Wow. See, that's awesome.
That's why the stuff slams. You know, when we were hearing it together, we we're like, wow, this just like really hits you hard. You know. Another thing, just the last thing on the duo thing. Like I noticed there's been not a trend, but there's been quite a few duos, you know, over the last couple of years, and in many genres, not just rock. You know, you have like what's the biggest one there with Blurry Face? I forgot their name now.
21 Pilots, I think.
Yeah, I think they're also initially a duo. You know, so is there? Yeah. I guess like, you know, obviously for efficacy, you know, and for like and for speed, you know, like that definitely plays into fact. Whereas they're like maybe because like trios are super rare, and now like duos seem to be becoming a little bit more common. You know. Yeah,
it's funny because like I mean, I feel like we were going against the grain as a duo when we started out. Yeah. And now that duos are becoming more popular, we're becoming a trio. It's like
interesting. You got to keep evolving.
Yeah, you can't keep things fresh. After the duo, the trio is going to come back, right?
Exactly. And then a 4-piece.
Yeah, and then a 20-piece. At one point, it'll be like just a full stage, like
the new Slipknot.
Yeah, a new Slipknot.
Let me ask you this. How long were you guys actually together in college before you started doing music? Were you personally knowing each other much before, or was it like you dated for a few months and then boom, you jumped into a band?
It actually happened at the same time.
At the same time? Interesting. Is that typical, would you say? Because like I'm not sure how many people in college end up sort of being in bands together and also having like personal relationships. Would you say there's a lot of those folks, or were you sort of outliers in that way?
I think we were the only ones.
Well, there was another couple in our program that ended up getting married.
I don't think
they didn't play music together.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I would think it's rare. Like we don't see too many married couples in bands in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
So how does the dynamic work exactly? What are the keys for you both that really make it a well-oiled machine?
Really, we just play into our strengths, I think. Like he's more on the creative side and I'm more on the logistics business side. So that dynamic, like, I don't know, we just kind of fill in all the holes really well and work together. Right. And it just, I couldn't see it working out any better, really.
Mm-hmm. I think that like, we just have the common goal, you know. I think that like, if we have the same goal and the same vision on what we want to achieve and we're helping each other achieve it, I think that that's all that really matters when it comes to the business side of things. The relationship conversation is something different.
Mm-hmm. Because I guess so.
We still need to be, you know, people and good people to each other at the end of the day, right? But I think that we're able to disconnect, not being good, not to say that you have to disconnect being good people, but just disconnecting sometimes like the business side of it and the relationship side of it. Like, you know, like when it comes down to us needing to work on stuff, we're working on stuff. Like we have to do what we need to do. And then for as far as us being in a relationship and stuff, like that's just, you know, it's, you know, if we want to go out to have like a date night while we're on tour, we're going to go do that and probably not talk about business too much, you know?
Right.
I mean, we
probably
try.
not talk about the show.
Try not to talk about business, but that's all we talk about.
Yeah.
Is it ever hard? I mean, to balance those two aspects?
I don't think so.
No.
You must be used to it now, though, because it has been 14, 15 years.
Yeah, for sure. But now more than ever, we're busier than ever. So it is getting harder to divide the two. But it's just, I mean, that doesn't make us unhappy or uncomfortable in any way because it's our comfortable area. So when they do cross over all the time, it's perfectly fine for us.
It is what it is, you know?
Yeah.
If we don't, like, that's how we sort of entered in our relationship organically.
Started that way. So
it's all you've ever known, you know. It's
so is it difficult? Cool. No, it's absolutely easy. Look at us, 14 years later.
I mean,
this is true. I don't know why people think it would be hard.
Well, because usually a lot of times, like you know, like if you both don't have the same interest, the fact that you're both the same goal, the same creative thing, that definitely must be easier because you're not one is away for 4 months touring or 3 months, and then like that's where that gap sort of gets in between the couple, right? So like the fact that you're there, you know, you're always together, this is one mission, I think obviously simplifies things. There's no like, what about me kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, I think so too.
There was I was watching something recently about this person talking about having somebody to always have like bounce off of or reflect off of that. It's important to have somebody there. Like when it comes to like athletes, they have like their coaches or somebody's always there to bounce themselves off of. And then that person reflects back. And then that's what helps you move forward and achieve your goals and stuff. And
constant reflection.
Yeah, exactly. Because it kind of gives you, it lets you see yourself a little bit from the outside. And I think that that's what a coach tries to do, right? Like a coach is trying to, when they're working with a player, they try to show them their weaknesses and their strengths, and they're trying to help them, the stuff they can't see, you know, like, and I think that that's what we do. And I think it's important to have like one person, whether it's, you know, you're in a relationship or it's a different bandmate or it's your manager or somebody else who, you know, you should have that one person to kind of bounce off of, reflect off of, to kind of get an outside perspective, to try to improve yourself. Because I think that, you know, for us, we're never going to be perfect, but we can always try to improve, and like work hard. So it's good to know where to navigate in the stuff that we need to work hard on. And I think that having that other person to reflect off of is essential for that.
Yeah. So all bands have, like, you know, in the music industry, everything is a challenge technically, but like what's uniquely challenging for like a duo yourselves? Like, is there anything that like other bands don't have to deal with that you guys do?
I don't think so.
Sometimes when we're on bigger stages, if we don't have a lot of the stuff, the lights and the pyro or whatever it is, like sometimes it's hard to fill out those bigger stages. Like, so
Right.
I'm like, I'm trying to run around and like, I'm trying to run around from this corner to that corner and like,
Yeah, all of a sudden the space between stage left and stage right is like
humongous.
100 feet.
Yeah. Halfway through a song, I make it to the other side of the stage. Like, but I think that's probably the biggest challenge.
That's hilarious. So, I mean, did you guys study specifically other duos who were maybe couples? Like, obviously, you probably hear the name White Stripes very frequently. Was this a study point for you?
I'll say not for me. Like, I grew up not listening to two pieces at all. Like, I grew up in the Canadian rock scene, and it was all larger bands and no female drummers either. So I don't think I took anything from the two-piece bands at all. But of course, we knew of those two-piece bands later in our career. So, and they're we're big fans of quite a few of them. So,
I like to look at all of them. Like, I like to look at Death from Above. I like to look at the Black Keys when they were a duo, White Stripes. I like to look at bands that didn't have bass players, and like just really, like like just really study what they're doing. Like, I think that's, for me, that was really important because in the songwriting aspect of it, it's like, why do certain songs connect in a big way from this duo? And it's like, what's happening in this song that's connecting? And because they don't have a bass player, they don't have these added lines. Because there's a lot of, like, when you start throwing candy at a song, it can really make it sound humongous. But it's like, if you don't have all of that, tons of that candy, it's just right down to the core of it. And then that core is essentially what this song is. And is that good? And is that going to connect? Is that something special? So to me, like, I like to look at all of that stuff and really hone in on what I think is, or try to figure out what is so special about this song from this band that connected so large, and then try to learn from that, So I think, but like anything, I think in any industry or any art, I think it's important to look at as much as possible. For me as a songwriter anyways, because I do like Renée was saying, I take the reins on the songwriting stuff. So I'm honing in on all that stuff. So yeah, I look at every two-piece band I can. Just like, the ones that are really, that have really connected in a large way. I try not to pull too much from bands that are a little bit, that are not connecting as much, because I don't want to make the same mistakes. So,
for sure, but it's worth studying too, right?
No specific bands. I'm not saying no specific bands, because there's tons of them out there. But like, it's true. Sometimes you don't want to.
Well, it all comes back to the song. A good song is a good song, right? And that's what we're after. So.
Speaking of good songs, obviously there's a bunch of them loading. You have the album Shockwave coming out on November 4th, of course, produced by Neil Sanderson of 3 Days Grace and mixed by Grammy award-winning mixer Howard Benson, or I guess engineer. What can you tell us about the production of this album?
It's a really unique combination. Like, when we went into the studio, we were using a lot of really boutique gear. We knew that what the end result was going to be. So we looked at the whole project and we knew, like, okay, we have Howard Benson and Joe Ricard, who's going to be like mixing it and really making it sound sonically humongous and just really fat, big mixes, which is what we love. And so looking at what the end result is going to be, it's like, well, what do we want to do? What's the stuff that we really want to come to the forefront? So we went into the studio and just got really boutique gear, like really like a lot of really old stuff. Renée's snare, I think, was from like the
early 1900s.
Wow.
Like 20 or something like that.
That's insane.
Yeah. So it was like we looked at it having the opportunity to really put our own coloring into a rock album by using a lot of the older stuff, and having accessibility to that stuff was massive too. Like, you know, a lot of bands, when we went to Jukasa, it's such a special studio, and there was a lot of that stuff there. So when we saw it, it's like being like a kid in a candy store and being like, oh my God, like, because we didn't want to fall into what sometimes happens is bands using a lot of the same sounds, a lot of the sort of plug-in stuff, and like it's all of a sudden it becomes the same thing, just duplicated over many bands. For us, we really wanted this to be our own in a really unique way. So that boutique gear, the older boutique gear, really shines on the album. I think there's, you know, very unique guitar sounds, very unique drum sounds, bass, like all of that stuff. So the production is a really nice blend of the older, rich sounding gear and the new age mix that just blows it up and brings it really to the forefront.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it sounds like.
No,
Right.
Exactly.
I'm happy it worked.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah,
So was that the biggest thing you guys learned from this latest process, was like how important, you know, each variation of the gear is, or was that something that you'd sort of been knowing for a while and maybe just wanted to implement?
I think just having the option got us really excited about it, because I think like when it comes to, for me, like when I think of like going into the studio, the goal is always to try to make the greatest album of all time. So it's like what does that sound like? What would that be? And so like having the options, knowing going in that we were going into Jukasa, which is like this next level, beautiful studio. They have the console from Abbey Road, Beatles Abbey Road. So it's just
insane.
like, it's just knowing that we were going to be walking into that situation. It was just trying to use as much as possible of the stuff that was there for us to use. So it was like, I think that that was our mindset. That's always our mindset. Like if you put this stuff in front of us, or if we have the options, we're going to try to make the best of it in the best situation. And I think that, you know, when you have all that gear, it's like, you should use it. Like,
Yeah.
that's why it's there, and at least find something within there. And we were bringing a lot of stuff in too, you know, like we were, another great producer from Canada, Gavin Brown. He let us use like one of his really special baritones. Like he never lends it out and stuff, but we know him pretty good. So he's like very gun ho for us, and he like let us use his baritone. And like, I mean, the drum wise for TRS, who's Renée's drum maker, and he's another Canadian guy. He's a builder. Like that's where we got the snare drum from. It was the options, I think.
Yeah, we knew a lot of people with a lot of nice gear.
So we
had a lot of sources to pull from.
And I think that the main thing too was that we had the time to do it. Like I think that that's really difficult to reach out to all these different people, and to have it just time wise be able to bring all this stuff in, and to have the time to go through all this gear. That takes a lot of time. And this day and age, like at least even prior, you know, a couple of years back, it was really hard to find the time. It was like, you got to push out an album between this period. And that doesn't really give you a lot of time to explore that option, you know?
That's what I was gonna ask. Like, how long did you have in the studio? Because like sometimes it's by the hour, and you got you have like you just want to bang out the tunes. So how long did you have to record in the studio?
45 minutes.
and you still found time to experiment.
What do you guys think?
Pretty good.
It's funny that you say that, because I remember when I started in the studio, people would show up thinking that like, I'm like, well, how much time do you need to record? And they'd be like, well, it's 3 songs, 5 minutes a song, so I need 15 minutes. I'm like, that's not how it works, you know?
Yeah.
Well, time is money. And in previous recordings, it was always like, okay, we're going to be rehearsed to the T going in there. So when we go in, like we're going to be the best we can be and get it done as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
But in this time, we actually broke up the recording of the album into 2 parts. So we recorded one in the winter and then one in the spring, I think is how we did it. But I think we had just over a week for each one.
Yeah, 10. I think the last one was about 10 days maybe. But because breaking it up into 2, it felt like a lot more time.
Yeah.
Because we were doing like pre-production stuff beforehand, and then like even some post stuff after we were out of the studio. And so it just felt like a lot more. And we were living there too. Like Jukasa has the apartments there. So we were never leaving the studio. We were just living in it the whole time. So that week, like when you're there, you wake up and you go to work, and then you're there till like the, early in the, or late night, early morning, whatever it is that night. And then you get a couple hours of sleep, back into the studio, start working again. We really took advantage of the time that we had.
Mm-hmm.
Man. So, I mean, in terms of the new record, if there's one word that you could use, or maybe one sentence that you could give us to sort of describe it, how would you describe it for someone who's never heard it?
This is difficult.
Yeah, that's a tough one, isn't it?
Way better than like, it could take me an hour.
It's a difficult question.
It's true. I'm just glad I don't have to answer it.
It's hard to say.
Maybe a piece of what to expect.
I'll sum it up, I guess, too, because through this whole process, we've been calling this album our Mona Lisa. So I will say that this is our Mona Lisa.
Nice. That's a beautiful way to put it. So here at Watch Mojo, obviously we're well known for our top 10 lists. So we wanted to dig up one of our old top 10 lists with you both and see if you could guess any of the entries that ended up on the top 3 of this list. So Joe, I don't know if you want to go through a couple of these here.
Yeah. So basically I picked out a list, because you guys are a duo, well, now a trio. So I was wondering, like, top 10, this list showed up, top 10 musicians with successful band and solo careers. So let's say, like, someone like, I'll give you off the top of the number 10 here was Eric Clapton, obviously as a solo, and with Derek and the Dominoes or the Yardbirds. So could you guess, what would you guess as a successful artist with a band and solo?
Ozzy.
Okay.
On there.
David Gilmour.
Yep. Okay.
A nice one. That's one of my favorites.
Good guesses.
Billy.
I think it could be.
Oh, what's his? My mind's racing right now. Billy Idol.
Okay.
Billy Idol. Okay. So our top 3 in this list was, what's that?
Neil Young.
Yes, 2 very good ones. See, I feel like once we get warmed up, we start thinking of more.
Yeah.
So we did have Phil Collins on this list, right, Joe?
Yep. Phil Collins with Genesis is number 7th. Sting and the Police, number 9, which...
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Number 4, Ozzy Osbourne.
Yes,
Nice.
of course.
Number 3, Beyonce with Destiny's Child and Herself. Number 2, Michael Jackson with Jackson 5.
I was in the top row.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say, but I didn't want to interrupt. Like, it could be any. It's not just rock, right? And then, the greatest is Paul McCartney and the Beatles.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
But there's also Timberlake here, obviously, with NSYNC, Diana Ross with Supremes and stuff, Dr. Dre.
Ricky Martin, Menudo.
Yeah. Oh, now you're going back.
We want to get into the pop world.
We're going deep now.
Awesome. So you guys are starting up, just to finalize, like, you guys are starting up, are you touring or anything? You're touring soon with 3 Days Grace, I believe, right?
Yeah, that's a big one. So we're going to be going across Canada in November with 3 Days Grace in the Warning.
Nice.
And then we're next up after that is Shiprocked.
Yeah, Shiprock Cruise.
Oh, cool.
which is like a hard rock festival on a cruise ship.
Is that a first for you guys?
Yeah.
Oh, this will be our second time, actually. We did it in 2016, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But we just found out yesterday that Shiprock sold out. So it's
wow.
Fun.
Yeah.
Fun.
People are excited to get back out there. Well, Jonny and Renée, thank you so much for your time. And we look forward to the brand new record Shockwave on November 4th.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Huge shout out to Jonny and Renée for joining us on episode 96 of the Innersleeve Music Podcast. You know, Joe, I have to say, meeting your sort of, I guess, college sweetheart in college and forming a band and having it stay together for this long, not only like something you see in the movies, but not something that usually would last if it happens either. So very impressive, in my opinion.
Yeah. I always make the joke of like, it's hard. It's like, I used to make the joke of like, when you have a band of 4 guys, 5 guys, or 5 people, sorry, I don't mean guys, I mean people. It's like a wedding. It's not a wedding, a marriage. It's like hard to, everybody has to see the same kind of, the same way and work together. And that's hard. So, and then being in a band and married at the same time, it sounds hard, but they make it look really easy, right?
Exactly. It's a whole nother level. But again, it's impressive because they make it look so easy. And of course, going out on a massive tour coming up, hoping we could stop in and maybe check them out. 3 Days Grace that's another band who's been legendary for a long time. So listen, shout out to the Standstills, shout out to 3 Days Grace, and shout out to the team for helping us put this together. And of course, shout out to all of our viewers out there in the SoundMojo community. Hopefully our up and coming artists got a lot out of this chat. We talk about working with Grammy award-winning producers here, a lot of the do's and don'ts of going in the studios. So it's definitely, if you guys didn't get all your tips written down, go back and write some notes because this is the episode for you.
That's it. And they've said like they've been at it for 14, 15 years, so it's and now look, they're opening up. They're the first part, they're supporting 3 Days Grace on a nice, big tour. So it's like you're playing like arenas, so takes time, man. It's not, it's not a TikTok only world where you could just put up a video and blow up, and then 5 labels are willing to offer you money because they want the latest and greatest. And then once you're done, they spit you out. But you want that longevity, you want that career. So like, look, 15 years in the making. Same thing with, sorry, I know I'm going on and on, but same thing with when we had the Damn Truth, right? Local Montreal band. They've been at it since at least 2007 in that form that they're in now. And look, now they just went back to Europe for the 3rd time, I think, to tour, and stuff. So, I mean, it takes time, but I'd rather have that longevity than like just burn out,
No doubt. And shout out to the Standstills for keeping it going, keeping it rolling. You guys have all the info you need to connect with them on their socials and, of course, on tour in the description down below. And thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 96 of the Innersleeve Music Podcast, brought to you by Watch Mojo right here on SoundMojo. Make sure to go give us a subscribe on our SoundMojo YouTube channel. We're almost at 30,000 subs, guys. We're like, 1,500 away, Joe, roughly 1,400?
No, I think even better than that. I think we're at like 600 away.
There we go. We're going to be celebrating 30K soon. So it's going to be exciting. Also celebrating 100 episodes very soon as well. So we have some special little tricks up our sleeve for that show. So make sure to hit that subscribe here and on our audio platforms to not miss a second of the podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as well as right here on our home on YouTube. Thanks so much for checking into this brand new episode of the Innersleeve Music Podcast. We'll catch you guys next week.